Hi, everybody. DUGROZ here with DUGROZ Reports. I recently had a chance to appear as a guest on the live stream for fellow content creator Stan the Credit Frog. And during that discussion, we took the time to answer one very specific question. It was about a part of the old cashback versus travel debate, and it was specific to watering down credit card rewards by having too many ecosystems, what's sometimes known as a step function of redemptions. In other words, if you have a redemption that you need this many points for with travel, you either have enough or you don't have enough. There is no middle ground, whereas with cash back, you can pay for a portion of a redemption. So that's the topic for discussion. We're going to roll the tape in just a moment, but before we do, if you don't mind, on this particular channel, I talk about finding epic value, including but not limited to credit card rewards for the average American. If that sounds interesting to you, please subscribe to this channel and please click the thumbs up button. Let's dive in.
So this was actually from the venture capital Discord that you put up, DUGROZ. So I think it's a very interesting topic. I'll let you kind of read through it and let us know what exactly is going on here.
Okay, so, and this is going to get real nerdy because this is like deep in the game stuff. So put on your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're brand new to the credit card points and miles game, I apologize. This might go over your head just a little bit. So, this is over a month ago. I took a screenshot from the Venture Discord, and I thought this was just a really interesting topic. To introduce the topic, it was just a general debate over that age-old question, which is better, travel or cash back, or some sort of hybrid strategy. And a user named Spaithco wrote this question: travel is trickier because redemptions are a step function. You either have enough points or you don't. So to a certain extent, you have to build a stash of points to be able to jump on most of the opportunities because award inventory is always expiring and somewhat limited. And then a user named Kurabot wrote this response: this is both why I'm not a fan of travel and why I don't understand why multi-ecosystem strategies become so dominant. You take longer to reach the redemption point when you split like that, risking devaluation. And just to clarify, in this context, travel doesn't necessarily mean, you know, if you're on team travel, you're going to Bora Bora in the Maldives every single day. And if you're on team cashback, you never leave your house, because you can use cashback to travel. So it's just more a question, I think, of how you get there. But what Spaithco is saying, and this is true, you know, let's just say hypothetically, you want to redeem your points for Flying Blue, KLM, or Air France, and you found a business class seat, and their best business class seats are around 50,000 points. Well, what if you're ready to travel and you haven't earned 50,000 points? You've only earned 42,000. Well, now you're stuck. So it is a step function. There is no gradual line. You either have enough to take that step and travel, or you don't. So is that a big red flag? Is that something that is a concern? I'll let you decide, Stan, if you want to go ahead to the next slide or... Okay, so I'll just push ahead. This is the response I wrote. And again, I don't even know when this was. It says today, but again, I captured this over a month ago. This is definitely something we all need to be aware of and think over how it impacts our strategy, the potential watering down effect of multi-ecosystem strategies. One way to overcome that is to look for common transfer partners, especially the most promiscuous ones, like Flying Blue, Air Canada, British, for example. For example, both Citi and Wells Fargo now transfer 1 to 2 to Choice Hotels, so I can get a multiplying effect by using both of those ecosystems, at least for subs. And then I said the problematic area are the point currencies that are hard to earn from multiple sources, like IHG or Marriott, or even if it's not hard to earn, I mean, because you can transfer Chase to IHG, but that's usually a pretty bad redemption, so you're probably not going to. Since I only travel 5 to 7 times a year, it doesn't make a lot of sense to focus on both of those ecosystems. I should probably just pick one and run with it. Of course, the exception is subs, because year one's almost always worthwhile. So how do you want to dissect this? Because we could take this topic in about 16 different directions here.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that question and that framework that they put in, you know, it kind of goes back to what you do or what I do as a individual. And so there's no right or wrong answer to this question. It very much ties into the cent per point argument as well. But what I would say is that I've always been of the mindset of what is your ultimate goal with all of what that we're doing here? Mm-hmm. And the ultimate goal is to basically save money on whatever that is, either for travel or for cash back. And then if that's the ultimate goal, like what is one way to save money that is really much credit card agnostic? And that, like I said earlier in this live stream, is you spend less money, right? So if we're trying to spend less money and you have Chase, Amex, Citi, Capital One, Wells Fargo, US Bank, all the different banks, or you have Marriott cards, Hilton cards, ISG cards, you spread out all that spend across all those different ecosystems. You could theoretically make it to be a point where you're getting the most out of your spending, but you are spreading yourself very thin. So you're not really going to get enough to get to that step function where you can actually redeem for a useful redemption to actually really do what you want, which is to travel where you want to go, to the places you want to go to. And so the way I look at it is that you want to make sure that you just pick the 3 to 5, and that's my opinion, 3 to 5 ecosystems that you want to target and just target those. Like, for example, I have UR points. I don't necessarily go to Hyatt. I could go to Hyatt. I don't. I try to focus on places I do go to, for example, Marriott and Hilton. Those are my two most common hotels. So I really focus on that. And by consolidating those points into those ecosystems, which is not really a good example because that's not a good transfer partner. But if you consolidate your points into less ecosystems, you can then do more with the points you have. Go to those places you really want to go to more often. And I think that's ultimately where we want to go in terms of, the ultimate goal of what we want to do. Now, you did mention how you can take the promiscuous, you said, transfer partners, like the ones that are on Chase and on Amex and on Capital One. And so you did have a slide about that where you talked about certain things that you could do to alleviate that a little bit. And so those are the cards that you covered. Did you want to cover those real quick?
Yeah. So maybe to stage it a little better, what you said is very true. You can water down your currencies too much. Like let's say you pick up the, I don't remember the exact name of it, but the annual fee choice card that's issued by Wells Fargo, because it gives 5x on home improvement stores. You're like, well, I don't have any home improvement bonuses anywhere else. So this is the best. And, over the course of the entire year, you spend $500 at a home improvement store times 5, and now you've got 2,500 choice points. Well, what are you going to do with that? If you're normally a Marriott guy or normally a Hilton guy, yeah, you got better cents per point, but now you have something that's really not usable. Conversely, if you have the Wells Fargo ecosystem or the Citi ecosystem, you can transfer to choice. So you're going to be building up anyway. Well, then that makes sense. But you have to think about how your ecosystems play nicely together. And I'm curious, Dan, you said kind of a rule of thumb that pops into your head is maybe 3 to 5 ecosystems to target. Do you mean in addition to transferable currencies or inclusive of transferable currencies?
Inclusive of.
Okay. Yeah. So like if you said I have Amex, Chase, Capital One, Citi, and Wells Fargo, I've already maxed out my 5.
Yes. The thing is, like, it's not like a hard rule. Like you can have more, but you're not focusing primarily on those, right? Which is why I really like the idea of a hybrid setup where you have the US Bank Ultra Reserve, which is basically a cashback card, right? But I also have the Built MasterCard as part of my core setup, which has Built points. And then I also have, whatever welcome offer card I'm earning. And I have obviously Amex MR points and Chase UR points. So from that already, it's about 4. I do have the Marriott and Hilton, although I don't spend on those cards. I do get points from things like referral bonuses or by, doing little offers that they have here or there or staying at the properties. But I don't really focus on those ecosystems specifically, right? I really focus on like, Amex MR, Chase UR, and the Built MasterCard, so the Built points. Those are kind of like my 3 primaries. And then I have like Marriott and Hilton on the side there. And now ISG, so that's 6. So I'm starting to like get a little bit even past what I want to be in. Yeah. But that's how, when you start to do a hybrid setup, you can really rein it in and use those cashback cards as kind of a catch-all for all the different kinds of redemptions you have, like you've been doing too.
Yeah, and I feel that way too. I've gotten a little out past my skis, and I've diversified a little too much. Now I've kind of found not the transferable currencies, but the hotel and airline programs, kind of the 3 to 6 that really seem to fit me well. And there's some promiscuity there where, like, you know, the same example I listed before, like both Wells Fargo and Citi feed into Choice, and I'm liking Choice more and more as time goes by. So even though they're different ecosystems, they kind of end up in the same place, or at least can end up in the same place.
Right. Another poll for us. So I want to hear from you guys. There's 126 of you. By the way, thank you so much for being here on this Saturday morning / afternoon. And of course, if you're kind of here and you haven't yet done so, please hit the like button if you're getting value. We've, hopefully gave you guys a lot of great information today and had a good time with us talking about credit cards and, of course, the new Amex Gold Card potential changes, as well as a lot about U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve and related topics. But this question is going to be basically talking about how many points ecosystems do you think you should have? Like, do you think you have a lot or a little? And so you'll see that those are the two options. And so I'll change that over now on the screen. And so I want to know about you guys. How many points do you think you should have? Do you have a lot or as few as possible? And that's very subjective, I know, but I think it's the mindset of what you want to have, right? And so if you think that you should diversify completely, just get so many possible, or should you just have a select few like DUGROZ and I were talking about, if that would be a better way or a better situation for your personal situation. So go ahead and vote. Again, you can go to menti.com and then use the code in the bottom here, and then you can join and let us know your opinion about what you think about how many points ecosystems you should have. It looks like so far we're kind of surrounded by like-minded individuals here, DUGROZ, where people say that, really the mindset should be it's as few as possible, because again, we want to focus our spending and get points in those ecosystems that we can then use to make that really nice redemption. But if you split it too far out, then it may not be as much as you need.
And there are a few cards or few ecosystems where there's multiple uses. There's the points usage, and then there's the cash-like usage. I don't remember if it was the previous slide or two ago. One that popped into my head was the Venture X. Actually, I think this works for any of the venture cards, where you can use it as transferable currencies, but you can also use that 1 cent per point travel eraser. So you kind of avoid that step function, because it's like, okay, I can't afford that 50K Air France redemption, but I do have enough points to knock $100 off my motel, which I just charged the Venture X. Same thing with the Aeroplan card, at least through the end of this year. They've got that pay yourself back feature. So it's like, okay, I may not have enough points to take the Aeroplan flight that I want, but I can redeem an Uber ride for 1.25 cents per point. So I'm not having to commit to that step function. And Chase can feed into that, because Chase transfers to Aeroplan. So
there you go. Yeah.
I like flexibility. So places where you have more than one option. One thing I dislike about Amex is that unless you have the Charles Schwab card, you never have the cash fallback option, where if all else fails, at least I can cash out for a penny per point. And that kind of irks me a little bit. Yeah. I know there's ways around that with jumping through hoops, but I don't want to jump through hoops.
None of us want to, but that is the company Amex is. It's the jump through hoop company.
They are,
with their new coupons. I mentioned before, 3 to 5 seems to be the sweet spot there, not just for your credit card portfolio, that's the core portion you use a lot, but also from the amount of ecosystems you have. And from our poll here, we see that for the most part, the majority of people say it's as few as possible, and some say that they should have as many as possible. So there's going to be some difference in some sort of opinions too about these different changes.
Yeah, and I know we discussed offline that we went to the extremes on purpose, or you did, to make it's boring to have a non-committal answer. But if I was answering in real life, I would have some sort of middle ground non-committal answer, like, well, I want few for simplicity, but I want lots for opportunity. So I'm probably going to be hypocritical, which I am, and say simplicity is better, but right now I'm not as simple as I should be.
Right, right.
I'm wondering, Stan, do you have any, I can't remember, do you have any Citi or Capital One cards?
I have neither of them. My wife has a Citi card, but I do not personally have Citi or Capital One. I'm trying to keep it like a little more simple if I can.
Have you ever been tempted to jump on board either of those?
Oh, plenty of times. Plenty of times. But there's two things that make me hesitate. The first is Chase 524, because that's always a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather get a Chase card than another card. The second is that I just, the thought of starting on a new bank is just hard for me to do. I think it's kind of what everyone thinks about when they like go to a new checking account or whatever. They don't want to move stuff. So banks try to make it as easy as possible for you to move to them, like giving you welcome offers and that sort of thing. But it's just, you know, before I had the US Bank and Bilt card, I had only like Chase, Bank of America, Amex. Chase, Bank of America, Amex, and then Barclays card. But then adding Wells Fargo and US Bank, now I have 6 different issuers. Like it's, you know, it's okay because I use those cards on a regular basis, but I prefer to have less banks if possible, right? So that's where I'm at with that.
A big thank you to my friend Stan the Credit Frog for having me on as a guest on his live stream. I'll put a link down below to the full-length live stream on his channel. Please take this time to subscribe to him if you've not yet done so. As for my channel, put your comments down below and let me know what you thought of this particular video. Don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks for watching.